Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to Recovery. My name is Alain Kapatashungu, and I'm the co-founder from Door. So I'm really excited in this first episode of 2021 because I get to chat with Joyce Rey on the show. She's on the show today. So Joyce is the executive director at Coldwell Banker Global Luxury, and she will tell us a little bit more about what that entails. But first of all, Joyce, how are you doing today?
I'm doing so well. Thank you, Alana. I was just saying I wish I was in Paris, but here I am in Beverly Hills, and it's not bad for second place.
I bet. I agree with you on that one for sure. So for those of you who don't know Joyce, he's the only thing you pretty much need to know. So Joyce has spent more than 4 decades selling America's most notable homes and setting many records along the way. She is, to me, arguably one of the most respected names in real estate industry. And get this, Joyce has amassed nearly $3 billion in career sales. That's
You're behind the times. We're getting close to. We're getting over 4. We're close. I think we're definitely over 4 billion.
Okay, scratch that. It's even better. You're over 4 billion now. With a B, guys. That's simply astounding. And so as a result, Joyce has been ranked in every category there is. I've checked that you can imagine as it pertains to being ranked as a top agent. And I really like the nickname too. Like the Hollywood Reporter described her as the billionaire broker, which is, I mean, it doesn't get cooler than that. That's really, really cool. So Joyce, I'm really excited to get started, and if you're ready, we can get going.
Great.
Awesome. So just the first question that I would like to ask you is, could you, if possible, like walk us through what is a typical work day for you during this pandemic? Pretty much, what's happening for you on a daily basis?
Well, I thought it would be a good idea to tell you what I did yesterday.
Awesome. That's perfect.
So yesterday was an interesting day.
Okay.
I had a call with the East Coast in regard to one of my listings very early, around 7 o'clock.
Okay.
And then I had to prepare for I am co-chair of UNICEF USA Southern California Board.
Awesome.
And so I had a conference call yesterday with the president of the UNICEF USA,
okay.
Starting the year off, kicking the year off with all of our plans, which are very exciting because we're taking the lead in vaccinating 182 countries, 80 of whom are low income.
Awesome.
So we're making the huge effort to get the vaccine out equitably. So we have a huge project this year. So I started the day with a Zoom call. I guess that's what we all do now.
That's what we do now, exactly.
You especially. So that was my first job of the day. And then I had to rush around, get ready, and get to an appointment on the other side of town in a beautiful neighborhood, Hancock Park, which is kind of an old neighborhood close to downtown Los Angeles. It's about 20 minutes from Beverly Hills. And I went to look at a magnificent home that had been in a family, throughout raising their entire. I mean, in LA, when a home is in the hands of a family for 40 or 50 years, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was a beautiful home on the golf course. So I went to meet with the heirs. The mom had just passed away. Had a lovely meeting with them.
Awesome.
And hopefully, I'll list the property. And so after that, I had to rush back to the west side because I was showing some beautiful high-rise condominiums on Wilshire Boulevard in Westwood. That's where the main section where our high-rises are for condos. And I met a friend, an old friend, as a matter of fact, and client who is selling her home and moving into a condominium. And so we looked at a couple of beautiful condominiums, and that was really fun.
Wow.
And then I had to rush home to get a quick bite of lunch because then I was going to show one of my listings, which is a fabulous $46 million villa in a neighborhood called the East Gate of Bel Air, which is immediately adjacent to Beverly Hills. And it's a huge 36,000 square foot villa. It has an indoor swimming pool, a bowling alley, and a fantastic movie theater.
Incredible.
The price per square foot is the most reasonable in the entire area, because at 46 million to get 36,000 square feet, by Parisian prices, that's quite expensive. It has a beautiful garden. It's on over an acre, and it was recently renovated by a very prominent designer, Gavin Broden, who actually came to Beverly Hills area from London, and he designed the former Candy Spelling home. He redesigned it for Petra Ecclestone. So he's a very prominent interior designer, and he redid this particular villa. So it's magnificent. And and it was an interesting showing that I had that day, because it wasn't with the actual buyer. The brokers had been contacted by an Indonesian family who are considering buying sight unseen. And so they asked their brokers to come and photograph the parts of the house that weren't in my marketing video.
Incredible. Incredible.
So
That's
we
incredible.
were filming the maids' rooms.
That's incredible.
So it was an unusual experience, I will say that.
Wow.
And so I did that. Then I had to, and of course, in between all these appointments, I'm negotiating several leases. I'm also dealing with an unfortunate situation where a tenant moved out and did not care for the house. So I'm trying to rectify that situation, and reading emails and reading texts and returning phone calls. And then I had to get back to the house at 4:15 to do a Zoom call, because I was hiring a part-time in marketing intern to help my marketing director, because she's on overload.
Oh, yeah. I bet. I definitely bet that must be the case for sure. That's awesome.
She was delightful, and I hired her.
Awesome.
And then, of course, we were into the evening. It gets dark here now between around 5 and 5:30.
Okay.
But my work day doesn't stop then, because then you start catching up on phone calls, organizing I was organizing the balance of the week, because I have a number of appointments both today and tomorrow, and so forth. So I think I actually stopped working at 11 o'clock last night.
Wow.
Now, normally I stop around 9 and watch some great television show. But yesterday I had too much work.
Yesterday was a busy day, pretty much.
A very busy day.
That's incredible. Wow. That's really, really incredible. Thank you for giving this.
But Alain, I love it. I have loved it from the minute I first started in the industry, and it's been an exciting ride. And I started the first company in the world to only handle $1 million houses. And that does not sound so impressive now, but in 1979, a lot of people thought I was crazy.
Look at you now. I mean, it's incredible. And if you don't have passion anyway, that won't work. It just tells that you are definitely passionate about this.
In any business, you must love what you do, no matter what it is.
Absolutely, I completely agree. Thank you for those great insight. So you are, I've seen that on your LinkedIn. It says that you are the head of estates division at CB, Coldwell Banker, Global Luxury. And you're also one of the most successful agents in Southern California. So my question to you is...
my job, that description of me, because I started this company many years ago, I have always had this division that I have headed. But it's not really a managerial job in the true sense of the word. I motivate the salespeople. I lead the sales meetings.
That's awesome.
But I don't have the managerial tasks because I couldn't possibly sell and do that kind of management. That would be too demanding.
For sure, 24 hours wouldn't be enough for you to be able to do that, actually. But my question for you is how did you stay on top, though, of not only your staff, because I've been able to chat with Alexa, I believe. She was really helpful in setting this meeting up for us. So how would you able to stay to be able to stay on top of not only your staff, but also what I imagine to be really elite clientele during this pandemic? Were you guys weren't able to meet? How did you work pretty much during this time?
Well, it certainly was a huge pivot for everyone. I mean,
yes.
And of course, I was one that always felt it was important to be in the office. I felt it was more professional. And I loved I do have 4 assistants that help me, which is great.
Okay.
And I have a team of 9 people that support me.
Awesome.
So, you know, I love the idea that 2 heads are better than 1.
Absolutely.
So I team up on sometimes I have a listing on just take it on my own, but for the most part, the majority of my listings, I have a team member or a partner of some kind. Okay. And I enjoy working with others. I enjoy helping others and young people that are coming up. Yeah. And, but this situation was, you know, something that none of us have ever experienced before. Agreed. And of course, at the outset last spring, we all thought business was over. I mean, we thought, how in the world are we going to sell a house now? But as it turned out, we could do it and do it very well. And some of the things that we've learned from this pandemic, we will carry with us. Because obviously, if people scrutinize homes online very carefully, they don't have to run around and look at as many houses.
Completely agree.
And so now, of course, we do these Matterport tours, which, you know, which are very helpful. Awesome. And of course, I was doing videos when it hit, so I had videos. I thought video was definite. I have made an effort, Alain, to try to innovate as I go in my business. That is important. I, in fact, was the first person in Beverly Hills to have a website back in 1990. Somebody called me up and said, "Do you want a website?" I said, "I don't know what it is, but I guess I do."
That was the right answer, clearly.
So anyway, I surround myself with young people. I welcome their input and ideas. I embrace anything that sounds good and works good and looks good and is the ethical and right thing to do. And it stood me in very good stead. Absolutely.
I mean, that is for sure.
And I think the one thing that I've enjoyed about this pandemic is all this time in my home. See? Obviously, in my former life, I was never home. I run out the door in the morning, run around all day, go to dinner at night with friends and clients, and come home at night and go to bed. So my bedroom and my bed were the only part of my house that I enjoyed. Now I'm in the dining room doing this Zoom. My breakfast room that looks out on my gorgeous garden is my office.
That's awesome.
I have a huge bedroom that I've turned into my online yoga studio.
Awesome. Oh, wow.
And the good news is, because I'm home so much and I've discovered online yoga, I'm now doing more yoga than because I don't have to drive to the yoga studio,
to the yoga.
I never had time to do. So there are a lot of silver linings about this experience, and I think we all have to try to focus on that, because you know, this has been so stressful and so tragic for so many people.
Absolutely.
I don't have too many friends that have lost anyone, but I did hear from a friend, in fact, who lives in Paris and London, and she lost her significant other, and I was just shocked.
That's horrible. Yeah, definitely. It's really important to look at what's happening in the prism of what you just shared there. Like, even though we're going through all what we're going for, there's always a silver lining. I love what you just said there. And if you focus on that aspect of it all, I think you can actually find a way to, no matter what's going on around us, to still be able to be happy with yourself, content with yourself, and find yourself in a really, really good position. No matter what's happening.
Because, you know, life is a choice. It's a choice of what you focus on. You can choose to focus on the positive or the negative. And one little tip that I think is great is when you wake up in the morning, you don't focus on the problems. Focus on what you're grateful for.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know, we all have, you know, positive aspects to our life.
Absolutely.
And when you start thinking about those things, it just lifts your spirits.
Agreed. Completely agree with that. So Joyce, what is to you the one thing that you believe was overlooked that COVID just validated as a demand, as an undeniable demand in the real estate industry? For example, this could be a way of work, this could be a process, this could be a tool, a product. What is the one thing that you see that in the real estate industry was pretty much overlooked, and now it's there now. It's here to stay pretty much.
Well, the one thing that I see that everybody wants nowadays is a home office. And sometimes
that is so true.
One for the husband, one for the wife.
That is true.
And
actually.
then I guess the funniest part is a Zoom room. Now, my Zoom room is my dining room. But,
exactly.
Everybody has a different Zoom room. We tried those virtual backgrounds to begin with, but your head is kind of funny in them.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if you noticed that.
I agree.
So I gave up on them because I had, just before the COVID hit, I had gone for New Year's to the island of Mustique, which was so beautiful. Wow. And so I had my photographs from there. So I was in Mustique, and I thought I was so cool at the beginning of the Zoom, right? But I realized that it's kind of funny, and if you turn it a certain way, it cuts off your nose. And
yes.
So I decided that
it looks really bizarre indeed. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. The home office, that is actually some. I think that every single article that I'm reading, there's now a mention of people not only buying homes but also the first thing they will realize, like, is there a possibility for home office now? This is a new thing, which is nothing that, before COVID, nobody was really focused on that aspect. So yeah, I completely agree with you.
And I think it's going to help our planet because, we'll be driving less.
Absolutely. Less commute and things of that nature.
So, of course, LA is the worst, the worst as far as traffic is concerned. So that will be great. I'm waiting for the flying cars, personally.
Yeah, I think we might be maybe 5 or 10 years ahead, and I think we're getting there. We're getting there.
And I'm the only one that wants the automated robotic cars. Everyone says, "Oh no, they're too scary." I said, "Are you kidding? Look how much business we can get done if we don't have to worry about driving."
Absolutely. You just sit there and you can continue to do your email and get on a call and things of that nature, get to your point B destination and step out and continue the day. I agree. That would be fantastic, for sure. Just given your expertise as well, like, what can you tell us about what's happening in the real estate luxury market? Because we hear about the residential market, we hear about what's happening on a commercial side as well. But what's happening in the real estate luxury market? And I feel like maybe from a transaction standpoint or from a trend standpoint, are there been any changes, or is just people are still buying luxury homes, or a little bit less? Do you think?
Well, actually, it's kind of interesting. Our market, I, of course, am very familiar with that, but I think it's true. Well, obviously there are pockets of the U.S. market, and some have done much better than others. New York has suffered more so probably than any other single metropolitan area.
Agreed.
Florida is gone wild. The Hamptons in New York and Aspen and have done exceedingly well. So there are all different areas. One of the biggest trends is flight to the suburbs, because because they're working from their home and they don't have to commute. They all of a sudden can move out where homes are a little less expensive, and they get more land, they get more amenities, and etc. So, for instance, Montecito is a beautiful neighborhood that is about an hour and 20 minutes from Beverly Hills.
Okay.
And I happen to have always loved that area, and I've sold property there over the years.
Okay.
And because I've had friends who lived there. And I have a number of listings that I've sold there and have started working up there, and the market is extremely active.
Wow.
So, you know, and that's true of areas like Palm Springs and Newport Beach, all of these, you know, outlying areas that where the real estate's quite a bit less expensive,
Yes.
have become very popular.
Okay.
So that is one huge trend. In terms of the West Side luxury market, which is my main focus,
yes.
from Malibu to Hollywood, that market has done surprisingly, exceedingly well this year.
Wow.
And I think it is, I attributed it, and the interesting thing, when the COVID hit and we all thought, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? I was looking for a silver lining. And I did a news interview back there, and I said, you know, it could help because people want bigger, better houses. Absolutely. And so maybe the silver lining could be they're going to move to bigger, better houses. Well, that's exactly what happened here. That's exactly what happened.
That's incredible.
Our sales year to date, 2020 to 2019, houses over $20 million, sales are up nearly 30% over 2019.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, and
30%.
Even if you look at houses 5 million and up, the sales are up substantially.
Wow.
But the interesting thing, when you go to 30 or 40 million dollar houses, of course, the number is very small.
Absolutely,
but the percentage year over year has gone down.
Oh.
So the volume, if you look at 20, because clearly there's a lot of houses between 20 and 30, but when you get up to 30 and 40, the sales have thinned out over 2019. But at the very top, you have huge sales. We had a huge sale in Truesdale at 125 million. We had Jeff Bezos buying at 165 million. And we had a sale in Truesdale of 100 million. So we had $300 million sales. So we had very high sales, but we had not so many over 30 and over 40 as we had the previous year.
Wow, that's incredible. $165 million home. That is a number right there. That's incredible.
That is quite the record. But you know, one thing I found, Alain, over the years is that when there is a record sale, it's not long until somebody comes along and beats it.
Oh, wow. Do you think
because I remember back in 1978, when I was a relatively young realtor, I'd been in the business at that point about 4 or 5 years. I doubled the highest price that anyone had paid for a house in the United States. And guess what that price was?
What was it?
4.2 million.
Wow.
Because the record at that time was 2 million.
2 million. Okay.
So I doubled it at 4.2.
Wow.
But in those days, we didn't have the news 24-hour news cycle.
Exactly.
Not many people knew about it.
Exactly. Wow, that's incredible.
The point is that it wasn't long before another house sold for $5 million.
Yes.
And then I listed the famous Pickfair mansion in Beverly Hills, and I sold that to the owner of the Los Angeles Lakers, Jerry Buss, for $5.3 million. And then that was a new record. And as I say, the records kept going and going and going.
Wow, that's incredible. So in your opinion, Joyce, do you think that this hiatus pretty much that was forced on the market had forced luxury real estate agents to like reimagine how to serve and work with buyers and sellers? Like, is there any new way that you're seeing people or yourself? Like, did you find a new way to work with your customer? It's pretty much the same thing. Nothing has changed. What have you seen lately?
Well, you know, we don't have that same personal contact that we had. I mean, there's a protocol for showing homes here. We're very cautious. We wear gloves and masks.
Oh, wow.
We try to limit the number of people going through the house at a time. It should be just 2 people, plus the realtor. before they enter the house, they sign a what we call a PED, which is a liability form that they recognize that the virus is a problem, and they're willing to that they won't blame the realtor or the homeowner if they get sick.
Exactly.
So I've never had a situation where someone went through the house and suggested that they had gotten sick. So I doubt that would happen.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, we've allowed for it.
Okay.
And so that's required. And then, of course, so almost all of our communication is online. And in Zoom. I mean, so, we just, and of course, I personally love being with people.
Yes.
And, and this is a huge missing part of my life is not, and this recent surge that we've had in Los Angeles where our hospitals are loaded, there's a need to be even more careful. And everyone is concerned about it. So, we're all being very, very cautious now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And our offices have been virtually closed through this entire pandemic. I mean, we sneak in there occasionally to pick up, a document or something.
Yes.
But we technically have closed offices.
Oh, wow. That's the hardest thing, I think, with real estate, because it is such a human first business, and not being able to be in contact, in close conversation with your clients or with agents. That's the hardest. That's pretty much the hardest part.
Yes, it is. And it's
more than any other
industry. My life, because my life was people. I mean, the truth is, you can't be in the real estate business if you don't like people.
Agreed. Completely agree with that assessment for sure. That is certain. And this is a great segue for us. So because you've done this at pretty much at an incredible level in your career. So what advice would you give to, let's say, a new agent starting, unfortunately, in this climate right now, in these difficult times? Like, what would you tell them to focus on? What should be their focus as they get started with their career? What advice would you give them?
Well, Alain, I remember when I started in the business in the early 70s, and the interest rates were presumably very high at the time. I don't even remember what they were back then. But all the realtors in my office were complaining. And of course, to me, I was starting in business. This was the only interest rate I knew. Yes. So I think that, you adapt to your environment. And agreed. I think that I think the business is far more complex today than when I began so many years ago. Far more complex. Our contracts, everything about it. I mean, every detail. If I look back at the time I started, first of all, it was all personal. Everything was done on a one-to-one basis. I mean, we didn't even have, believe it or not, Xerox machines came in while I was starting, right? So I used to type up offers with carbon paper. So, I mean, I know it's laughable, but
that's incredible.
You were very singular in your work. There were no real estate teams. There was no advertising. I had a 2-line classified ad in the newspaper for my listings. We never even photographed our listings. Wow. So, I mean, it was such a different, and our contracts were 2 pages. I mean, there were no disclosures. There were the file was this thin. Now my files are, there are, and they're in the cloud.
Yes, exactly.
And, the documents just keep coming. Every month there's a new document that we have to get signed. So it's such a different world, and you do need training. I think I was fortunate because when I started in the industry, I have a master's degree from USC. In business education. And I taught business law in a local high school here.
Got it.
So, I had a wonderful background for real estate. And I highly recommend others that want to go into real estate to get as much education as possible.
That's awesome.
Because I think it is a wonderful, it gives you a step ahead of the competition.
Yes. Agreed.
There are very few realtors that have master's degrees.
Wow.
And there are several realtors who are exceedingly successful who were lawyers who became realtors. What a wonderful background would that be?
Absolutely, that makes sense.
Clearly.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend that. But
awesome.
So a college diploma is definitely advantageous as a realtor.
Okay, that's good.
On the other hand, there are always those that don't. There's the Bill Gates of the world that are dropouts and are incredibly successful. So not that it's a requirement, but it's an advantage.
Agreed.
And
I completely agree.
And when you start, it's wonderful to have a mentor.
Yes.
Probably one of my favorite things about real estate was a young realtor came onto my team. He was acquainted with one of my first team members. They were friends, and he had worked a few months at another real estate company, came to my team, and after a couple of years, he got married.
Awesome.
And when his wife became pregnant, he sent me a text, and he said, "It's because of you that I can afford to have this baby."
That is awesome.
And to me, that's one of the most, every time I say it, I get the shivers.
That's awesome.
He now is one of my most successful team members.
Wow.
He's, in the top 1%.
That's such a great story.
And, I'm very happy about that. And I can say that about other team members as well. And
that's awesome.
But at this point, I don't take new people for the most part because I just can't do it. I can't run my business and and help young people right now. So, and I don't want, a lot of realtors have these huge teams and are selling, $1 billion because they have so many people on their team. And I prefer a smaller, much smaller kind of a family.
Absolutely.
Situation, not a huge team.
It's better because it's better.
Well, it's just,
definitely
it's
better.
what I feel comfortable with.
Yes,
I can't stay up all night, Alain. I need my sleep.
At some point of time, definitely. And I think it's just better because when it's a tight team, like you have, you just in terms of conversation, in terms of getting the chemistry together, you just work a little bit better because who can do what. And I think that's the advantage of having a small team rather than a really large team. Because, and even on a personal level, I really love that story that you just shared there, because it shows that it's more than just they're working with you. It's literally a family. Like when something great happens in the family, they will just share it with you, right? And that just says that you are more than just people working together. You are really, really a close family, and that's awesome. That is awesome. So the last question, if I can say that I would like to ask you is, what are some of the lessons that you personally have learned during the last 11 months, pretty much during this pandemic? What have you discovered about yourself, pretty much, that you didn't know since you've been in the industry, on a personal level or business level? What have you learned?
Well, I've learned that I can spend more time alone. Which I've never really done in my lifetime.
Yes.
I've always been with people.
Yes.
It's an interesting process to learn that.
Absolutely.
And of course, I guess my technological ability has improved somewhat with the Zoom, etc.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Those are really great. Those are really, really great. It has been really my pleasure. Thank you, Joyce. Recovery Season 2, Episode 1 with Joyce Rey is in the books. You can watch this episode on YouTube and on all platforms streaming podcasts. And remember, in the recovery, don't just get back to the same place, but strive to get to a better place.
Well, that's very good advice. Very good advice.
That was my treat, Joyce. I really appreciated your time this morning. And I really, really thank you for making the time to do this.
It's been my real pleasure, Alain. Thank you.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Have a good day ahead and please take care of yourself.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. Absolutely.